Hi, Bill Jones here with Lely Tank and Waste Solutions. You know what? If you've got one of these slide-ins and your operation is dependent upon this being an operating piece of equipment all day long, you know, there's a few things you should probably check out every single day before you leave the yard. You know, the heart of your system is, of course, your vacuum pump. And one of the things that you got to make sure with a vacuum pump is that you've got plenty of oil in that vacuum pump. Now, not to be excessive, you know, because that's wasting oil, that's wasting money. But one of the things that's going to make sure you get a long life and good operations out of your vacuum pump is to make sure you've got the right oil in your vacuum system, as well as that you've got a quantity of oil that's going to last the day while you're out in the field. So this particular Massport vacuum pump here has got an oil reservoir that's separate from the vacuum pump itself. Some vacuum pumps will have the oiler that's self-contained, and you can watch that oil drip into the system. So this particular unit here, you've got an oil reservoir, and you can see the level very visibly. So this is a good amount of oil, and that oil is going to go into this vacuum pump, and it's going to keep oiling those vanes as you operate every single day. So that's a real key element of any vacuum system, is make sure you've got plenty of oil. It's going to do two things: keep your vanes lubricated so that they slide in and out of their chamber, and give you a proper seal, and you'll get the maximum benefit out of the vacuum pump, as well as it's just going to keep you plenty lubricated, and it keeps you cooler. So from the vacuum pump, the other things we want to look at, you've got sight glasses on the top and usually on the side. Just make sure that those are secured in there well. You've got some adjusting knobs on each one of those. Just give that a good tweak and make sure you've got a good seal there, and inspect them and make sure they're not cracked, and they can fail on you while you're in the field. Every day during your operation, you're going to be watching this secondary here. You've got a visible bowl on the bottom of that secondary, and you can see if you're collecting water in there. You've got a float ball that if water was to fill up in there, that ball would float up and it'd check up into that. The vacuum would draw it up tight. You'd form a seal so that you wouldn't draw up any water that would then get down into your vacuum pump. So as we look at that each day, it's not unusual to collect a little bit of water in there. Probably pretty normal, actually. But you also then can drain that. Just turn this little petcock knob here, and that'll drain down in that hose, through that hose down onto the ground. So that's something to keep an eye on. Make sure you're not getting an excessive amount of water into that secondary. And that's going to be an indication that your primary is failing for some reason, and you're going to want to check that out. The other thing that we'll watch daily here is on the bottom of our oil catch muffler. There's a valve and a drain, and that's going to be an indication of whether we're getting an excessive amount of oil into there. And if we are, then we're probably over lubricating in our vacuum pump, and that's kind of a waste. So when you go to do that, of course, you've got oil in here, so you want to try and catch that in a can or some type of reservoir, and not just dump that on the ground. You know, another thing we can look at on a daily basis is we've got a sight tube here. This gives us the water level that's in our reservoir for our fresh water. And, you know, it's not a bad idea to go ahead and check these clamps and check your sight tube. Check each of your fittings that are on your tank. Make sure they're not leaking. You've got a sediment collection bowl here. You know, you can periodically take this off of here. There's a small filter inside here, and you can check and clean that. And that's an indication that you're getting excess sediment in here, and that's to protect your water pump, and so that's not getting into your pump. So that's something to look at each day, and, you know, probably on a weekly basis anyways. Take this cup off of here and just clean that out and clean that screen out. So, and then here's the water pump, and again, check your fittings on that water pump. Make sure you haven't got any leaks here, and go ahead and turn your water pump on, you know, before you leave the yard. Make sure that's working satisfactorily for you. You know, just take your hose, your wash down hose, turn your pump on, and give it a squirt. Make sure you've got your water pressure. So while the slide-in vacuum tank is a pretty simple system, vacuum pump, water pump, primary, secondary, and all those components need to be checked on a regular basis. It doesn't take a lot of time each day to make sure that everything's working the way you want it to work, and that you're going to be successful.